All right. So for the next 45 minutes or so, I'm going to give you an overview of the CTSI. And here's an outline of what I'm going to talk about. So a brief overview. Some of you have heard it before, but then we've had a few changes, in particular in the Buffalo Translational Consortium, just in this year and last year. Some highlights of progress from 2015 when our CTSA was first funded to the present. And I'll just say it's highlights. There's a lot going on, and this is only 45 minutes. And so can't talk about everything. And I just want to let the faculty and staff know that, I select things each year to talk about. There'll be bits about community engagement, about our collaborations with other hubs in the CTSA consortium, and a little bit about the Translational Pilot Studies program. And then briefly, plans and new initiatives. And again, it'll only be part of the various plans that we have. And then there'll be time for questions at the end, and I can elaborate on anything that I say. So the CTSI, the Clinical and Translational Science Institute, includes, if you will, this building, the Clinical and Translational Research Center, which is opened in 2012, the Clinical and Translational Science Award, that's the CTSA grant. Whenever I mention the CTSA, I always mention the strong institutional support that we have from UB, from the health sciences schools, from all of UB from the beginning, because that's a big part of the support as well. And then the Buffalo Translational Consortium, which is our partnership of 20 or now 20 plus institutions. And I'll talk more about that, particularly when I tell you about the new partners, new collaborators that we've added to that group. And our vision is to advance and accelerate research to reduce health disparities and improve the health of our community and the nation. And you will see in some of the things I'm talking about that our work is tied closely to our community. So with regard to the CTSA grants, we were first funded in 2015 through 2019, and then a second time from January 1 of 2020 to December 31st of 2024. So we have, 8.5 months of funding on the current grant. And then we submitted 3 proposals. The RFA changes each time. They like to keep us, nimble, shall we say, NCATS does. And they were, I say submitted January 12th, they were due January 12th. We submitted them January 11th. And it includes the one, that's the big one with all the cores. And that's a 7-year grant now. I'll tell you more about that, the 3 of them in the next 3 slides. The K-12 Mentored Career Development Program is a 5-year grant. And then an RC2, a specialized grant that we have an option to submit. And I'll tell you about that in a minute as well. So the one is for 7 years and it's 29.3 million. And then I'll show you a slide of the multiple key modules and core leaders who are the writers and the leaders and so forth. Then we have the K-12 Mentored Career Development Program, which is a 5-year grant, 3.4 million over 5 years. And that is a continuation of the very successful KL2 program that Margarita Dubokovich has been running since 2015. And the MPIs for the new grant are Katya Noyes and John Canty, both of whom are here. And then our RC2, it's called a High Impact Specialized Innovation Program in Clinical and Translational Science. So we had an optional module in our first 2 rounds, and it was one of them was imaging. You, as you may know, you've probably saw the stories. In the middle of this past summer, we have a new MRI, a world-class MRI, and then we have a very strong imaging group. The optional module has been very successful. So what they're going to do, and this is going to be led by Dr. Robert Zavadinoff and Ferdinand Fazer, and it's a 4 million grant over 5 years, and they're going to create a neuroimaging biobank and computational platform. And it's going to reflect the diverse population of Western New York. And this new MRI actually generates it's a so-called synthetic MRI, which uses AI. And instead of acquiring pictures, images, it acquires the data to create the images. The importance of that is that now if you do a clinical trial, you have to do the whole trial on the same scanner, and it's very difficult to integrate images from other scanners, even the same make and model. And the synthetic MRI allows you to integrate data broadly. So it's a huge advance, and it'll make this imaging biobank useful for lots of people to use. This is our outline of this massive UM1 part of the proposal. And you see it has 5 elements. There's element B is strategic management. The folks, the leaders and writers are in the middle. They're the people who did the very hard work in writing this proposal. And we have element C, which is training and outreach, and element D, clinical and translational science resources and pilots. And then element E, this is a new element where these are like large pilot studies, clinical translational science research program. And we had a call for those. It's been a whole year identifying what's going to be a potentially really innovative project that addresses our main goals of health disparities. Now, I'll just note a couple of things here. One is that we're going to launch a new dissemination and implementation core. Going to be led by Ranjit Singh and Bonnie Vest. That's a priority of this new RFA. That's after you identify a new drug that works. It takes another decade or more for that drug to actually get out in the community. You want to think of it in a simple way to think of implementation science. That's what that is moving our advances into the community so people actually use it and benefit from it. And then we've expanded the informatics module so that we now have engaged Roswell Park who has very strong informatics resources, and also the AI Institute, the Institute for AI and data science, and that really expands our capability and our ability to provide support to our researchers in the informatics module. And I'll talk about parts of this new proposal as well when we talk about our new initiatives. So here's the Buffalo Translational Consortium that I've shown this many times across the top. In blue are the health sciences schools of UB. On the left are our clinical partners. Across the bottom are important research institutes, in fact, that contribute specialized resources and expertise related to clinical and translational science. And then on the right are our influential community partners. And you could see the black boxes that we're adding for new BTC institutions. And I'll just show you one slide about each of them and the rationale for doing it. So first is Great Lakes Integrated Network, which is a network of 500 providers in Western New York, about half of them primary care, partner of Kaleida, covers about 175,000 lives, and most of them are in Erie County and Niagara County. And this partnership will allow us to bring clinical trials to community practices, and particularly rural practices. There are a lot of rural practices here, and that is actually Dr. Conroy mentioned, is a population that we try and prioritize because they've been excluded, and they are excluded often from participating in clinical research. Then over on the right, the Erie County Department of Health is now a Buffalo Translational Consortium institution, which made sense. We have been partnering extensively. We have a great relationship with Dr. Gail Burstein and the Erie County Department of Health, and we've been working with them all the time. And Dr. Burstein has been on our external advisory committee and contributed in that way, but it makes more sense for us to do it this way. Also, the Erie County Department of Health opened the Office of Health Equity in 2021. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And we work closely with that office as well. And so this is a sort of a natural partnership for us. And then the Community Health Worker Network of Buffalo, another very influential and important institution that we've been working with. Many of our researchers work with community health workers on research projects. And Dr. Renee Kadzow, who's part of our Special Populations Corps, is one of the leaders of the Community Health Worker Network of Buffalo. And I'll show you a little bit. One of the things that we're proposing that we're excited about is this in this new partnership is to use this model or implement this model of a sequential increase in the role that community health workers play in clinical trials and clinical studies, so that community health workers will become co-investigators and actual leaders in studies. And the community health workers have a large HRSA grant that Dr. Kadzow is the PI of, and we'll work in partnership with that. And then the Institute for Artificial Intelligence and Data Science. And this is an exciting new partnership. Our institute, many places are opening institutes now that AI has become, quote, popular and so forth. And our institute has been in place for a number of years and includes world-class researchers. And this makes a whole lot of sense as well. AI is changing, and it's going to change how medicine is practiced and how research is done. It's a huge, powerful tool that we want to take advantage of. And nobody knows what AI is going to look like in 7 years, let alone 2 years or 1 year. It's moving so fast. So we want to take advantage of this new technology or this growing technology. And we also want to be vigilant of the risks associated with AI as well. The bias that's built in just about every database that exists, and disinformation and other risks as well. So by partnering closely with the AI Institute, we can accomplish both of those important goals. And we have 3 faculty who have effort on the new CTSA grant and will participate in the steering committee so that they'll see every month and hear every month what's going on. We'll identify projects and identify ways that we can work together to advance our work. So those are the new institutions in the Buffalo Translational Consortium. And now in the next 2 slides, I'm just going to list some selected highlights, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the ones that are in boxes. So I'll talk about our influential community partnerships, some selected partnerships, because that's such an important part of what we do. I'll say that clinical trials have doubled, more than doubled since 2015. And when I say progress and highlights, so the progress is our researchers. It's the clinical researchers doing the work. And the CTSI is helping with those. And the doubling of clinical trials, we have our clinical research office leaders here. Welcome. And they're a huge part of this, the streamlining of processes, the regulatory support. The CTSI works closely with the clinical research office. And you can see in the graph over to the right that in 2023, we have the largest number of clinical trial participants ever. You'll see in 2020, things took a drop. That's the pandemic. But if you'll recall, we paused all research, but then prioritized COVID research. And so that's why it didn't drop too much. And then what happened is the COVID trials kind of went away and there was a lag in 2022. This is how we're interpreting this graph anyway. And now things are getting going. And again, we're going in the right direction. Also, clinical trial participants, 22.4% of the folks we have race and ethnicity data on are underrepresented racial and ethnic populations, and that exceeds Erie counties, which is 20.8%. And our reach of our CTSI is approximately Erie County. So we're doing a little better than our population. The national is less than 10% of all people nationally in clinical trials are from underrepresented groups. And Dr. Conroy talked about the importance of this. And this is something that's been important to us from the beginning. And then our team science core led by Dr. Katya Noyes and Liz Bengard, who is passing out those little things to take the team science survey, which I would encourage you to do. They developed a new a way to track team science using institutional databases, published a very nice paper that's noted at the bottom there, and showed, in fact, that our interdisciplinary grants have increased from 2015 to 2020, the first round of CTSA funding. We've developed extensive partnerships as part of the CTSA consortium. I'll talk some about those for sure. And then the core competency workshop series of workforce development. This has been led by Dr. Margarita Dubokovich, actually offered 272 workshops, 7,000 people attended. Well, you see the certificates of completions and the digital badges awarded. And the attendees include faculty, postdocs, clinical fellows, residents, students, staff, very broad audience, and very successful core competency workshop series. Pilot studies program, I'll talk a little bit about too, an 11-to-1 return on investment, but I really want to show you the mentoring strategy that we're using that is beginning to come to fruition, shall we say. And then in a CTSA linked K-Scholar program, again led by Dr. Dubokovich, as I mentioned previously, trained 21 scholars in 11 departments in 7 different BTC institutions. That really distinguishes us, our CTSA core, from the rest of the consortium. Mostly train MD PhDs, which is good. It's great. We have MD PhDs in ours too. But we have been training clinician scientists, nurse scientists, pharmacist scientists, dentist scientists from the multiple different schools. Those 7 BTC institutions are 6 UB schools and Roswell Park. And you can see $24 million of the scholars, most of it in federal funding. And then this past year, our Institute for Healthcare Informatics brought in Kaleida data. So now our researchers have access to Kaleida data and UBMD data, which is really covers most of the region. You can access it from your desktop in de-identified form, and with IRB approval, you can get identified data to help for recruitment for clinical trials. So we've been talking and reading and hearing about the mission of academic medicine for decades as a 3-legged stool: medical education, clinical care, and research. That's now an outdated concept because it is now a 4-legged stool that includes collaboration with our communities. Universities and academic health centers are recognizing that we as institutions we're part of the community. We have a responsibility to the community to actually contribute to the community. And the old way of thinking about community engagement and working with community is the community has needs, and then we can help them with their needs. The way we need to think about it, and the right way to think about it, is our community has resources, and we can work with our community, and they can teach us about what the community needs, about what really the social determinants of health that are so prevalent in our community really are. They teach us. It's a 2-way street in order for us to align our work better, to work better in the community. And you'll notice that paper at the bottom. In fact, the first author is Dr. Philip Alberti, who was the keynote speaker for this venue, our annual forum in 2022. And he talked a lot about this whole concept in really very eloquent ways. And okay, so community engagement, what are we doing? What are a handful of the things that we're doing with community engagement? I mentioned this already, and this is actually a figure from our grant. And this is the model of how we're going to work together to advance the role of community health workers. Just so community health workers are folks from the community who join and help on research teams and work as part of research teams. And so this is the whole plan. The CTSI, along with the health workers, are going to develop a curriculum. And in this model too, the community health workers are going to teach us as researchers, and we're going to help teach the community health workers about research. So it's very much a 2-way street is the way we're envisioning this. And then I've talked a lot about this in this venue, the African American Health Equity Task Force, which was formed by the community in 2015. And then you can see that we joined when it was formed and when our CTSI was first funded. And I've learned an enormous amount about the health disparities in the community, and have worked in multiple different collaborations and so forth. And it was really this task force and the partnership with the CTSI and with lots of other faculty from the various schools in UB that led to the launch of these two institutions, the Community Health Equity Research Institute in 2019, and then that's a university institute, university-wide, and then the Buffalo Center for Health Equity, which is a 501c3, which is kind of the community end of the task force. And then we've worked very closely together. And then in 2021, April Baskin, Erie County legislator, brought legislation to create this office. When she was working on that legislation, she came and spoke with the task force to help kind of frame what it should look like. And then this office was opened in 2021. So it gives us a partnership with enormous reach in the community, a university, community, government partnership with the idea that this will enable us to do better research, but also to make sure that our research actually benefits the community. That's what our community partners ask us all the time. How's this research going to help us? And I think that's what we need to think about, and we need to help our researchers keep that in mind. When you publish the paper, get the big grant, it's not over. You know, we need to take the next step. And that in partly is implementation science as well. I'll tell you about three kind of selected initiatives that have been particularly successful. One is the Buffalo Research Registry, which was started by our community engagement team. I'll show you pictures in a minute. This is a registry of 7,000 people who've signed consents to be contacted for clinical research. A special thing about it, which again distinguishes us from other registries, because many CTSAs, probably all CTSAs have them, is about half are from underrepresented groups and from low poverty zip codes. That helps very much with recruitment. And this has been particularly helpful in identifying healthy volunteers. It's helped, as you can see, it was used in 106 studies since 2015. The Buffalo Research News is a community newsletter, online letter that was debuted in 2020. We had it in our 2020 proposal, and it sends bi-monthly, and actually it is actually looked at. It has a very impressive open rate of 34%, while the industry standard for online community newsletters is in health and fitness is in the range of 21%. So this has had a real nice reach in the community. And then Dr. Teresa Quatrin and Dr. Renee Kadzow authored this very innovative book called Sophia Learns About Research. It's a children's coloring and activity book to teach children and their parents and their grandparents and whoever's reading the books with them and working on it with them about clinical research and the importance of clinical research. And there are English, Spanish, and Arabic versions of it now. These are the two most common languages spoken in our region after English. And then in a really exciting partnership, partly with a pilot study and through the hard work of Dr. Quatrin and Dr. Kadzow, had a partnership with the Explore More Museum, which has 250,000 visitors or more per year. And they created, a company created a video game. Here it is in the museum. It's been played on more than 107,000 times. So this is a really good way to reach our community to help, share the word, if you will, about clinical research and the importance of clinical research. And it's been a real nice initiative. And now they're working on creating partnerships with other hubs and so forth related to Sophia Learns About Research. And I'll just mention that this is our community engagement, special populations and recruitment group, kind of cores and groups who work together about the things that I just talked to you about. All right, this is a good time where I want to mention our website. We have a website, we've had it from the beginning. Well, we are now in the process of updating and upgrading our website. And this is a picture of the new homepage. The homepage was just launched a day or two ago. And it looks different and hopefully easier to navigate. It's more modern looking and so forth, and uses some of the best practices where the idea is to get to things with 3 clicks. One of the important, I think, really nice things about it is right up front, you have a choice. Community members, to reach things that would be of most interest to them, click here, and researchers, to get at the resources that we offer to researchers, click here. So then if you click on that community one, you see this. So I mentioned the Buffalo Research Registry. This is a list of all the active clinical trials at UB. People can search, they can look in categories. Research Match, that's a national registry to sign up. Buffalo Research News, all the back issues that I just told you about. And then Sophia Learns About Research. There's also an online activity book version of that book as well. And so this makes it easier for our community members to find the things that they would find most interesting. And they're free to look at the other parts of the website as well. And here's another. I just want to show you another couple of pages. Is one of the really nice advances is it's going to be a lot easier for people to reach the folks on our team. So you can see this is the A letters. So every staff and faculty on the CTSA, it's about 40 faculty and about 18 staff will be here, are here. And you reach by alphabetical order. You can reach by whatever core you've been working with, and then our steering committee. These are the A's. Remy is our only A, and here are the B's, and you can go through and you can reach folks, and there's an email address, contact information for each person here. So I think I hear from people, I was talking to somebody, I don't know who it was, and our website before made it hard to find people, and this will really improve things dramatically. And this is our communications team. Naveed and Christopher have really worked hard on this, working hard with Mary Sienkiewicz, our COO. So there's more coming, and they're working actively right now, and will sequentially be launching more pages and more sections, updated sections of our CTSA website, TTSI website. I want to tell you about collaborations with other CTSA hubs. Having the millions with the grant is great, but the other thing about having a CTSA grant is you become part of a national consortium of about 60 institutions. And these are the leading medical schools and universities and academic health centers in the country. And it literally is a very collaborative and collegial group. All of us want to collaborate. NCATS encourages it. It makes your grant look good, but more importantly, you can learn a lot from these other hubs. You can share resources. One of the mantras also from NCATS is don't reinvent the wheel. A lot of these other institutions have done really good things and are willing to share them, like us. So you can see we have lots of different partnerships, and these include close partnerships, and then just CTSA hubs we've done things with or are doing things with. I'll tell you about some example partnerships that have been particularly productive, and I think have particular promise. One is we got an administrative supplement to run what's called innovation labs for team science with Vanderbilt, and hosted 2 innovation labs. This is run by Larry Hawk, and several of the people here actually contributed to that, were mentors as part of that, and participated. And what it does is we invited K scholars and early career faculty from throughout the CTSA consortium to participate, and it is an in-person 1 week. It's almost like a team formation grant writing workshop. And we had 43 scholars, this is in person, who did it twice, from 30 different CTSA hubs. And then at the bottom, you'll see, in fact, the group just published a paper in Journal of Clinical and Translational Science about doing this. And it was randomizing these scholars into come and do it, and then look at how many grants you submitted, look at how many teams you formed, publications together, and then look at a control group of people at a similar stage in their career. So really innovative work, this innovation lab. We've been doing an exchange of pilot studies reviews and KL2 proposals for 8 years now with Penn State Hub. And that helps to eliminate the conflict of interest, which is a huge issue to try and find reviewers for our pilot studies every year. We've had lots of partnership with Rochester. That's just been a great partnership. And one of them was joint pilot studies with co-PIs at both sites that we did a few years ago. And the co-PIs share work and share resources. And then we've been hosting these creative scientist workshops every other year. And we co-hosted one with the Medical University of South Carolina. They have experts in remote trials. And you see that this one was focused on remote trials. And we had 138 participants from 33 hubs. This was an online event. And we had the director of NIMHD, the National Institute of Minority Health and Health Disparities, who had lots of insights on, how are remote trials for underrepresented groups and so forth. It was a great one. And in our pending grant, or our grant that's awaiting review now, we have letters of collaboration from 13 different hubs regarding our most active collaborations. And then I'll mention some of the more specific collaborations. One that we're at the beginning of is a collaboration with 4 other hubs who also have strong commitments to their African-American urban communities like ours. In Cleveland with Case Western Reserve, Newark with Rutgers and their CTSA, and Rochester. They are doing really innovative things and have great partnerships. And this is an opportunity. The 4 of us, 4 groups, feel like we can really learn from each other. So we're going to create, groups, and we're going to get together. We're going to visit one another's sites and learn about what's happening at the different sites. We just submitted our proposal. Rochester submitting theirs in May. Rutgers submitted theirs recently. So we're waiting until the dust settled from these proposals that kind of have to stop your life to do. And then we're going to start this up probably, excuse me, a little bit later this year when Rochester gets their proposal submitted. We have some upcoming collaborations with other CTSA hubs that I think are going to be particularly exciting. One is they're called CCIA, Collaborative Innovative Acceleration Awards. These awards that you can only apply for if you have a CTSA, and you have to work with at least 2 other CTSA hubs. And actually, Larry Hawk was the PI of this, submitted it. It got a score, but not close enough, submitted it again, and just learned a couple of weeks ago, it got a great score. And it looks like it's going to be funded. So it's not funded yet, but it is literally comparing remote trials with in-person trial recruitment. We talk about, remote trials is better, engages more people and that sort of thing. Well, no one's really tested that in a rigorous sort of way. And this will be related to smoking cessation and then other behavioral interventions. It's a 5-year grant, and it really resulted from the collaborations that Larry Hawk has with these other institutions. So this is going to be an exciting undertaking that'll get going, I think, in the next several months. We're working now with University of Rochester. They're the lead. So UB is the lead of that one, and the University of Rochester is a lead. They have developed a clinical trial feasibility and evaluation tool. So the idea that, you start a clinical trial and some of them are doomed to fail. For example, if you didn't do a feasibility study, if you had enough people to enroll of the kind of participants who fit the inclusion criteria, or you're going to lose huge amounts of money on these, and that happens more often than we would like with some of our investigators. It happens less with the CRO now handling budgets and so forth. But this is a tool to look at the feasibility, not to say yes or no, but to say, here's where the risk is, and make a prediction, in a lot of ways about the success of the study. And what it'll do is look at retrospective data for the first 2 years, the UG3 part of it, and then do a prospective study over the next 3 years and test whether the tool actually accurately predicts. And then in a third, what I think is a very exciting collaboration is a Clinical and Translational Science Ontology Consortium. This is with our informatics core. So UB is a world leader in ontology, and the National Center for Ontological Research is here, created by Dr. Barry Smith in 2006. He's a co-director of our new of our informatics core, and he will lead this consortium with Dr. Bill Hogan, who's our chair of our external advisory committee at Medical College of Wisconsin. And Barry and Bill have been working on an ontology for clinical and translational science for a number of years. And then they've engaged these other consortia to look at and develop a new ontology. The importance of that is ontologies really advance what you can do in terms of your science by creating a common language. It's more complicated than that. But one of the high value, or the what do they call it, the top 10 wish list of NCATs is to have an ontology for clinical and translational science. It's going to help us figure out if we're successful. And then it'll also help NCATs in identifying how the CTSA consortium is successful. And then the other one, the first two, the second one will be an ontology on social determinants of health, which there's also a big need for. So that's an exciting partnership that we will launch in 2025. Let me talk about the pilot studies program. So you can see in this table, and I show this table a lot. I think many of us show this table a lot. And actually there was a pilot studies program started in 2010, entirely institutional. But this is from when our CTSA was first funded, and the totals awarded and then the extramural funding. If we eliminate these last 2 or 3 years from calculating the return on investment, it's about 11-to-1 return on investment in extramural funding, and almost all of that extramural funding is NIH grants. The thing I want to point out, and we've been doing this from the beginning, and that is we look for opportunities to pair a junior faculty, a pre-tenure faculty as PI with an established investigator who's a funded investigator as the mentor for that person. The idea being, can the pilot study help in advancing this junior faculty person's career? And to do that, we want the junior PI, the junior person, to be the PI. So not a co-investigator on a senior person, but the PI. And so of the 105 studies here, 45 went to junior faculty with a senior pair. And you can see that 20 of them got their first national funding from related to the topic of the pilot study, and 18 were promoted. And again, if you think about these last few years, these also have a number of junior, probably a similar number, close to half of junior faculty. So it's going to take longer to see that kind of return on investment. So this is really a special part of this pilot studies program. I think that advances not just advancing the science and so forth, but actually using it as a mentoring tool and a mentoring mechanism to train the next generation of clinical and translational science researchers. And this is our CTSI pilot studies team. Katya, I realize you you're doing other things, and we're in the process of actually expanding this team a bit. Katya has been a great contributor, but she's also been a great contributor to lots of other things in the CTSI. So we're gonna make some changes and recruit more folks onto this team to give us a nice range of expertise. And I'll specifically mention Aaron Carnes, who's been running this from the beginning, and it's a well-oiled machine the way it works, and I really appreciate, we all appreciate that. Whenever I talk about the pilot studies program, I always mention the institutional support that goes with it, and this is from the beginning. Dr. Kane, who's here, was a huge proponent and huge supporter right from the beginning. And I think he really in many ways led the way. And you can see the provost office, the vice president offices, and the deans of the health sciences schools, Roswell Park School of Engineering, because those faculty have been quite successful in our pilot studies program, all contribute every year for us to be able to give that large number of pilot studies to our faculty. So I publicly recognize that regularly. It looks like I lost my thing here. All right. Want to mention a thing that's coming up, and I actually spent about half my update last year, or a good chunk of my update in this setting, talking about the difference between clinical and translational science and clinical and translational research. So just by way of reminder, translational research is what we all think of as moving basic science discoveries into improved healthcare. And that could be new drugs, new vaccines, new behavioral interventions, new diagnostic tests, new ways to improve healthcare. Translational science is intended to speed that process from the identification of a first molecule for a new drug to FDA approval is 17 years with an average cost of $2 billion. Incredibly long, cost inefficient, clunky pipeline. And so translational science is intended to expedite that pipeline. So for example, recruitment to clinical trials is the biggest bottleneck in that pipeline. So new ways, innovative ways to recruit people to clinical trials would be translational science. Second biggest bottleneck is regulatory barriers, and that's on the national level and on the local level. So ways to speed up budgeting and contracts and IRB approval and so forth would be another translational science tool. Before I talk about briefly about some of our new initiatives, I want to recognize our CTSI steering committee. These are the faculty who have the ideas, who lead the work that I've been talking about. This is a great group. We've been meeting monthly since before 2015 and have excellent meetings. And I just want to recognize every person here as being a really important and critical contributor. I'm fortunate that I get to stand up here and talk about it. And it's really the work and the ideas and the innovation of this group that I'm talking about. And similarly with our really awesome CTSI staff, we have 18 or only 17 here. We're about to hire a new person. If you don't know where they are in this room, they always are in the back row. They populate the back row all the time. But they're the boots on the ground of doing the work that the CTSI does. And I just so appreciate the work that every person here does, all from different backgrounds and different training histories and so forth. And that's what's nice about, I think, translational science and translational research, is you bring people from multiple disciplines together. Last slide is selected new initiatives that we've proposed, and I've mentioned a number of them already, but actually related to that concept of clinical and translational science versus clinical translational research. So with strong institutional support over and above the budget that we could squeeze into our budget limit from NIH, is a full-time CTS project manager to work with all of our modules and cores and with our CTS projects and pilot study awardees to help design clinical and translational science studies. So right now our cores help a lot of our researchers and also are developing new ways to do that. So this whole concept of CTS is bringing scientific rigor to developing the new ways to do things. We've been using trial and error for a long time, and now it's going to be like that CCS, the remote trial study that I just described to you. A control group of in-person recruitment compared to a group of remote recruitment. So it's those kinds of studies that we want our cores to continue to do. And we actually have a full-time, high-level person to be able to work with our cores and not just adding that stuff on to what they're already doing. We're going to develop, kind of tweak the curriculum. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to develop, as I've mentioned this now a couple times already, the innovative curriculum to advance the role of community health workers on research teams. And I also mentioned our partnership with the Institute for Artificial Intelligence and Data Science. And I mentioned we already have that partnership going. One of the things that we have is a health literacy plain science initiative. And we're working with the AI Institute and Dr. Jinjun Zhang in doing that with using, for example, GPT is pretty good at taking something that is at a college level reading and bringing it down to 8th grade or 10th grade or wherever you want, as long as you have some human input to check for accuracy. So that's already a partnerships that's getting going. And then we're going to launch a CTSI leadership, diversity, and mentoring program. And so what we're going to do is identify early career faculty who, have an interest in clinical and translational science, who are potential leaders, and identify those folks and include them in selected initiatives, offer them leadership training. They'll go to steering committee meetings or selected steering committee meetings. They'll get linked with a particular core. And a key thing about that is we make sure that it is not an onerous commitment that will detract from their developing their own research program, which is critical at that stage in their career. So this is exciting because we need more diverse and more innovative leaders for the future in clinical and translational science. I mentioned launching a dissemination and implementation core, huge priority in this RFA of this proposal. And Dr. Singh and Dr. Noyes and Dr. Canty together actually have had a K-12, have a K-12 that's just ending in D&I science. So we have really expert group, and I think we can really help bring this to our researchers. I mentioned establishing the CTS ontology consortium with the 7 hubs, and we'll do CTS impact and social determinants of health ontology will be the first 2 that are developed. The K-12 program will continue, and actually it aligns exactly with what Dr. Conroy was saying about, those characteristics of a clinical and translational scientist, which is sort of a newer way. It's not, it's tweaking and advancing how we think of what a clinical and translational scientist needs to do a boundary crosser and a systems thinker and that sort of thing. You can't be all focused in your own discipline. And then I mentioned the neuroimaging biobank that is intended to reflect the diversity of our region. And we got that new Philips 3T MRI scanner. And I mentioned about synthetic MRI. So this will allow linking with other biobanks. There's also a lot of interest in linking imaging with clinical data and with other data, genetic data and so forth, which is easy for me to stand up here and talk about and challenging to do. But that's what we intend to get from this neuroimaging biobank and this really innovative project.